So much for being here with me for this stress mastery webinar. I know we've got a handful of people already in the room who've been patiently waiting, so thank you for that. And I also know that it takes a little time for people to get logged into the system, even though they have their alarm set to remind them to be here at 12 o'clock. So we'll just welcome those people as they get in. I wanted to thank those of you who are able to be here and get started with the content right away. My goal for these sessions is to actually just have them be short and informative and super practical so that you can so that you can learn. Here's the other challenge. As soon as I start saying something's going to be quick, I start getting rushing syndrome and my words start to merge together. So let me do this first. Let's take a breath. Welcome. I'm grateful that you're here. We don't have to be in a rush. And at the same time, I want to give you as much information as I can in a 20-minute short webinar. So you can imagine when I have a lot to say and a lot to share and I want to get to Q&A with all of you, that can feel a little bit like stress. So we'll do the best that we can. I'm saving the final 10 minutes. So in total, it'll be a 30-minute session, 20 minutes of discussion and me kind of sharing some things with you, hopefully having you interact as well. But then 10 minutes just for Q&A. So if you have questions on this topic, I'm going to ask you to try to keep them topic specific, because if we start talking about stress, obviously we could spend days here and we'll have more webinars to cover more topics. But for today's session, I really wanted to talk about the impact of humor on stress. And so let me give you a short background on who I am, why I'm here, and why I've started this webinar series. For those of you who don't know me, I fashion myself an integrative neuroscientist, so I study the impact of many different things on the brain, and specifically my focus is on stress and the brain and building mindsets that allow us to be more resilient, to have better energy, more happiness, to perform at higher levels, all of that great stuff. So it's been a really fun adventure, but a big piece of why I think I can call myself an expert in this space is not my education, not my research, not the amazing partnerships I have with brilliant people who teach me every single day, and I'm so grateful for that, but really my own personal relationship with stress, which started when I was very, very young. I had deep stress sensitivity. I was a highly sensitive person. I struggled with a condition called vasovagal syndrome, which we're going to talk about in next week's webinar. I'm very excited to see so many people interested in that topic. So anyway, my challenges around stress really led me to want to explore this more deeply. And those challenges don't just disappear when you have more information. The key to all of this is how do we take information and learning and actually start to hardwire our brain differently so that we can operate at better levels. So my hope is that through this webinar series and talking about some of the elements that I found really powerful in my own life, that you will get some quick tips that you can apply right away. And this could be for you, or it could be for clients that you have, for family members, for kids. This is all stuff that I think we all really need. So let's get started with the content. Before we do, for those of you who are here live, I would love to see where you are dialing in from. I've been so delighted to see we have quite an international audience. So I know a lot of those people couldn't join us live, but they'll be listening to the recording. We have a big group actually from Denmark, and we have a lot of people in Australia. But go ahead and type in where you are. So we've got Anne from Florida. Great to see you, Anne. Craig's in Ohio. Hi, Craig. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names here. Thank you. Nicole in Gainesville, Sue in San Diego. Sue, I could look out my window and probably see approximately where you are right now. Thanks for being here. Eugene, Oregon. Len, awesome. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and my fiance went to the University of Oregon, so that's fun. Charles is in Malta at 9 p.m. Thank you, Charles, for being here. How fun. Lisa in Vermont, Val in Bermuda. We've got Suzanne from Hamburg, Germany. Wonderful. So keep sharing with us. And for those of you who are watching this in the recording on YouTube, I'd love to see where you're watching this from, and you can post that in the comment section as well. So I want this to be a conversation, but I want to really give you some information and some practical tools. So my discovery into humor and really my interest started when I was going through one of my many bouts with depression. It was a deep depression, most likely triggered by years of anxiety and a very kind of manic work pace. I know many of you can relate to that. So when we're functioning at that high, intense stress level, it's only natural that at some point we're going to hit these pockets of depression and burnout. And I remember sitting in my condo and thinking, it's been a really long time since I had a deep belly laugh, and I miss that. If I were to think back on the times that I just had the best time and really enjoyed, usually with another person, it was like laughing to the point that, as my friend Karen would say, tears ran down our legs. That's kind of funny if you think about it. But anyway, just that deep belly laugh and what happens to the brain when we're laughing. And so I did what any good scientist would do. I Googled laughter and research, and I started diving into the research on laughter and humor. And I found this amazing organization called AATH, which is the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. And they were doing this research, and they were getting together 2 blocks from my condo in just a couple of months. So I decided to check it out. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the details. It's a fun story. But essentially, I plugged right in. I remember sitting in the back of the room. They were doing a laughter competition, and I was thinking, this is so strange. I don't know if these are really my people, but I got to know them, and it was just so amazing that they were having these experiences of laughter, but they were also very serious about the study, about the research, about the brain science, about the application of how to use humor to make us better at the things that matter to us. And so one of the things I learned very quickly is that humor and laughter are very different. So we're going to talk primarily about humor and what is humor. And one of the things I learned early on is that oftentimes humor comes from a place of pain. So if you think about comedians, many of them have a lot of pain in their life, and they've learned to take that pain and play with it in a way that helps them to cope with life more effectively. It's not that you need pain to be funny, but a lot of times it is a way that the brain is actually helping us to cope with the challenges in our life. So this is a perfect example. I'm sure most of you don't really care, but like I have wet hair right now, and I was thinking, okay, I didn't have time to blow dry my hair. I prioritized going for a run, and I think that's funny because it really doesn't matter that much. This is a webinar, and we're just hanging out with each other, and that's not the important thing about this. If you start calling yourself an expert on something, especially if it's stress, be prepared for everything to go wrong. That's just, it's kind of the nature of the universe, I think. If you want more patience, not patience like clients, but like patience, like being a patient person, what has to happen for you to get more patient? Well, you have to be in long lines, and you have to be around people who challenge your patience. That's how you build that capacity, how you build that mental mindset or that mental muscle that's going to help you to be more patient. And so humor, in a lot of ways, comes down to using our brain in new capacities, tapping into things in different parts of the brain, memories that we have, experiences that we have, being cognitively flexible to see irony happening. And there's this magical process that's happening in different parts of the brain. So let me give you just a quick understanding of that. When we look at humor, there are actually 3 different ways that humor kind of manifests in our brain and in our body. First is through laughter, which is a more physical release of humor. So if we find something funny, there is sometimes a laughter effect, and that's physically what's happening in our body. But we can also laugh without finding something funny and have like laughter yoga sessions, which usually turns into finding things funny because everyone's laughing. We know that laughter triggers mirror neurons in the brain. So if you see someone else laughing, typically you'll start to feel a little bit of that silliness, playfulness. You may even start laughing. So laughter really happens at the core, the brain stem of the brain, and the deep kind of primal center of the brain. And sometimes it's triggered by humor and sometimes it's not. Mirth is the emotional experience of humor. So this happens in the emotional center in the brain, number 2 there, if you look at this kind of map of the brain. And this is where you are actually finding something funny, and there's an emotional release of some sort that is very calming. So you wouldn't necessarily have to be laughing to experience this. You may just be in a situation that you find interesting, or there's a lightness to it, a playfulness to it. Play tends to kind of tap into both of our laughter and mirth centers in the brain. And if you've heard me speak before, you know I'm fascinated with this notion of recharging the brain with energy. When you're experiencing laughter or that emotional mirth, you're pulling energy and resources from the body, and you're actually lifting those into the brain and allowing it to expand. You're calming down and quieting that emotional reaction, kind of monkey mind center of the brain, and you're allowing the brain to work more effectively. Now, one of my favorite parts is what we call wit. And wit is more of a cognitive, kind of cortical, cortex, human part of the brain idea that when we find something funny, we can be seeing irony, or we can look at something, and a lot of times this is images, illustrations, jokes, puns, where that kind of more cognitive part of our human brain is seeing something and finding it funny and entertaining. And there's something we call the kick of the discovery, which to me is this whole brain process when we find something funny where we're using all of those different levels of the brain, and we get this surge of positive chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, which actually start to wire the neural circuitry in a positive way. So on one hand, we're expanding the brain's capacity to work at higher levels and a whole brain process. And on the other hand, the beautiful magic of humor is it's also decreasing that overexcited amygdala, which is based in that number 2 in the emotional center of the brain. It's also calming and quieting the nervous system, which is connected to that number 1. The primal parts of the brain are being soothed, entertained, played with, so that the logical part of our brain can find the irony, get the kick of the discovery, and actually work more effectively. So if you were to look at the actual brain cells trying to connect with each other, there's this magical kind of special sauce happening when you find something funny that's allowing those neurons to connect. And if we're intentional about using humor, and if we strategically incorporate humor into our life, we can perform at higher levels in a lot of different ways, which I'm going to tell you about in a moment. But before I do that, let's actually practice. Now, if you've been on a session with me before, you may have seen this video. I've seen it 1,000 times, and it still works for me. So I want you to just kind of pay attention, just see if you notice anything happening in your brain or in your body as you watch this video for just a couple of moments. Okay, I'm going to pause it right there, and if any of you want to know where to find that, you can go to YouTube and actually look up baby laughing ripping paper. It's pretty easy to find. So for those of you who are with me live, type in the chat box and let me know. Did you notice anything happening as you watched that video? Could you feel any physical sensations changing? Did you notice anything with maybe your mood or your energy? And let's just get a couple of comments from people now in the chat box. So I see Lisa said that she loved it. I know I love that video. I try to show it in almost every presentation, although there are many, many others like it. And I'm going to give you all, before we finish up here, a link to a website that has more resources for you. So smiling, lifting the load, delightful. Felt my stomach react like laughing. Interesting, Mercy. So maybe you didn't actually laugh out loud, but maybe physically you noticed some sensations happening. Some people did actually start laughing too. Someone, Nicole, even had tears in her eyes. That's awesome. So, you know, starting to laugh or just about to laugh, you're kind of feeling that start to come up and out in a sense, right? But here's the other thing, is sometimes it's not physical laughter, but there's an appreciation, or as Maggie says here, like an awe factor, a cute factor, oh, isn't that sweet factor. And even when those things are happening, there's a calm happening in the brain. So that was like maybe 15 seconds. Imagine if every morning before you started your day, you had a little mirth experience. So for me, the 3 things I do every morning to prime my brain are movement, meditation, and mirth. And I do them in different orders depending on the day. I'm in meditation training right now, so technically I'm supposed to meditate first. Hi, Emily, if you're watching this, I'm working on that. So for at least 30 days, I'm going to meditate first, and then I go exercise, and then I have a little mirth experience. And typically for me, I post something in our Beyond Funny Facebook group, because that's a group of people who are looking for funny things and sharing funny things that are healthy. And that's very important too, because we do have, unfortunately, unhealthy humor. So if you were to think about the difference, it's pretty obvious. Healthy humor lifts, and it also lifts others. And unhealthy humor is hurtful, and it's bullying. And there's a, kind of, I'm going to feel better about myself because this person's suffering. And we know, and I know many of you on this webinar, many of you who will be watching it later, we know when we do something negative to the world, we are doing something negative to ourselves. We are not that different from each other, and we are deeply connected through energy with each other. So when I lift somebody else, in just a small way, there's a lift I get. And new studies, a friend of mine, Lynn McTaggart, just did some amazing research that showed that not only when you send kind of positive intention, has a book called The Intention Experience, when you send positive intention, that the person receiving that gets it. But now these new studies show that the people actually doing the sending of intention, doing the prayer, doing the positive thinking for someone else are having even more benefits to them. So I know, because I know many of you here, that this is not new territory for you, but maybe for others it is, this new idea that if you find something funny, and it's not at someone else's expense, and you can share that with others and lift others, we have a collective decrease of stress. And that's really my goal, is not to say, let's manage stress or let's get away from stress, but let's use it, channel that energy, because our stress reactions are giving us energy that we can use in positive ways. And in the Stress Mastery program, you learn that how you frame stress and how you actually learn to tame it through using it, not minimizing it, is really important. And humor is one of those ways. So in a longer kind of webinar that I do, Beyond Funny, that's an hour long, I go through each of these in depth. And certainly if people want access to that, I can do a longer session. But essentially here, I just wanted to let you know that humor does help with things like health and happiness, brain performance, communications, relationships, sales and marketing. And we have a lot of those resources. Certainly, if you go to aath.org, and I'm going to post that here right now for everybody. I'll also post it on the page on the YouTube channel, aath.org. You can see resources into all of these different capacities. And assuming that you're watching this before April 2018, if you want even more information, you can come to our conference, which I happen to be chairing next year in San Diego, April 12th through the 15th, and you can hang out with these people, you can learn more about it, you can find out how to actually apply it. But here are some quick tips on what I call the how of humor. Number one, realize that humor is not so much about being funny as it is seeing funny. So these two concepts that one of my best friends, Karen Buxman, who's a neurohumorist and studies all of this, initially was going to be on the session with me. Actually, I'm thinking right now, thank goodness she wasn't, because we would have never been done in time. But maybe we'll do a full 1 hour discussion together. She's one of the instructors of Humor Academy, which is a 3-year program to learn about humor. And she talks about this idea that appreciating humor is just bringing your awareness to what's funny in life. And that's really where the magic happens, versus an initiator, which is, I have to be funny. Now, if you're a comedian, or if you want to put humor into things like your bio, your resume, your website, obviously all of that is still kicking out some really great energy to the world. But for you to get the benefits, all you have to do is appreciate it. It's all about seeing funny. And like the yellow car experiment, if you actually, look for yellow cars, you see one, the next day you see a few, the next day you see like 20, with humor, if you're looking for something funny and you start to pick up on that, it starts to expand your ability to find things funny. And so I suggest creating a Beyond Funny folder on your computer, on your phone, with images, videos, stories, whatever it might be, audio, comedy books, anything you can find. And as you see things funny, just drop them in there, so that when you need a humor boost, you can go back into that folder. Have daily humor strategies that are very specific in timing and nature, like what I said, my morning prime time includes meditation, movement, and mirth. So before I even think about what I have to do today, I do those 3 things to prime my brain to be in a better state for optimal performance and mastering stress. Because when stress starts to take over and we start thinking about all the things we need to do and we don't have enough time, our brain is literally hijacked from being able to function at higher levels for creativity, collaboration, innovation, resilience, all of the types of things we know are important. And then the last one is have a humor buddy. Have someone that you can share funny things with. And Karen has been so brilliant at this. This was actually a live webinar we were doing to raise money for the Alzheimer's Association, and I happened to catch the screenshot of her making fun of me behind my back. But she sends me a funny image almost every single day. And that lift, I'm so grateful for that. And so no matter where we are, it just takes a couple seconds. And she often says that for her, it's such a gift because she has to go find it. She has the accountability to me to send me something, and then she's getting the lift by going and finding it. So my recommendation for you is put yourself on a 21-day challenge, Beyond Funny challenge. You don't need any tools, resources, or anything. Just decide right now that for 21 days, you are going to work on what I call your mirth muscle. So just like training anything else, pick what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, have a humor buddy or accountability partner, join our Facebook page, which is called Beyond Funny. I'll put a link to it on the YouTube channel once I go grab that. I'll make sure it's here for everybody so you can join us. I would love for you to post your funny stuff on our community page so that we can all benefit from each other. That would be amazing. And then just finally, a couple of other resources. So you've got my email address, you've got my website. There is a website, beyondfunny.com. There's a dash in between that has additional resources, and it's there already, but I put coming soon just because we're refreshing it. So there are some videos, but some of the links aren't working correctly. We have Karen's ebook called Laughing is Better Than Crying, which is an ebook for caregivers. And so we'll be putting a lot more resources there. So you can check it out now, but probably the best thing, join our Facebook community. So when the website is available, I will post it there for you. So, okay, I went over just a smidge, but I would love to take your questions, comments about this commitment, if you have something that you're willing to do. So I'm going to ask everybody to just type something in the chat box. Either if you have a question, if you had an aha moment, if you have a commitment that you're willing to do, how are you going to incorporate this into your life? And let's get a little bit of conversation going. So, but you mean being the appreciator or initiator. So what I meant in that statement is just that you don't have to initiate humor to get the benefits of humor. And the reason I say that, it's basically the same thing as saying you don't have to be funny. The key is seeing funny, because a lot of people think about humor and they automatically think they have to tell jokes or they have to be a stand-up comedian. I don't consider myself a funny person. But I laugh at myself all the time, and I laugh at stuff in the world all the time. And so what I've done is I've strengthened my appreciation of that by having these strategies, so that what happens now, honestly, is when I'm in a stressful situation, my first go-to strategy is usually humor. It's not take a few deep breaths. It's not a million other things that we're told to do. I have aromatherapy. I have it right here. I have aromatherapy. I do massage. I do, meditation. I do all these things. But the first go-to, honestly, when something kind of crazy happens, is there anything funny in this right now? Because that calms and quiets the noise of the brain, the self-judgment center, the critical center of the brain, to just allow me to be playful. And that opening up of the brain now allows access to the human part of the brain that's required to problem solve. So I'll give you a quick example. I was up on stage. There was, 2,000 people recently, and I was there to teach them about stress management. And my microphone didn't work, and then the clicker wasn't working. It was like everything that could go wrong as I'm already on stage was going wrong. And, usually that would send me into a panic because I'm already nervous public speaking. But I decided to just be light with it. And it was like, of course this is happening because I'm a stress expert. And the audience laughed and we had a good time and it took the pressure off. And that moment of me being able to demonstrate resilience had a much greater impact on the audience than the slides, the statistics that I was getting ready to show. So that is not something I would have done in the past had I not been building my ability to appreciate what's funny in life with these daily strategies. So just like anything else, if you want to be more mindful, if you want to be more calm, you have to proactively practice those things. So if humor is an asset that you want to have in your toolkit, in your stress mastery toolkit, then you practice it just like anything else. I hope that explained that for you. So Lisa shares she has a Beyond or Funny file on your computer and in your file cabinet. That's great. I have a Sunshine folder that I have a physical folder for that I travel with, and that is positive things. So very similar to training a positive mindset or gratitude or appreciation, I keep thank you cards and notes from people that have sent me on email of gratitude for the work I'm doing, because we all hit those times where we're exhausted or burnout or lacking inspiration. That's just part of the cycle of life. If you have access to humor, positivity, those are two of my core mental muscles for resilience, by the way. Positivity and gratitude is one, humor is another one. The third is curiosity, another talk I'm sure I'll be doing in the Stress Mastery series at some point, because a curiosity mindset of openness and interest and flexibility also has very similar chemical changes happening that help us to master stress. So Sue says, commit to setting up a new folder in OneNote to gather all of your humor resources. That would be amazing. So Sue's going to be one of our presenters actually at our AATH conference. So Sue, I know you know this content deeply, but sometimes just knowing it doesn't help us to have access to it when we need it. And for you and the clients you work with, what a great gift now to start having that resource. I know for me, you know, someone's going through something, I don't make light of it, but I may just nudge them by sharing a funny image on, you know, a text or on email or Facebook or whatever, and it's really powerful. So it is a way of reframing, and that's absolutely right. Nicole's going to try for 21 days. Great. Learn something funny first thing in the morning, look in the mirror. Yes, that works too. That definitely works. And I would say make sure that that's healthy humor, not unhealthy humor. So we don't want to be poking fun at ourselves, but we can certainly have a chuckle at not only ourselves, but I think even sometimes how we get in our own way or our perfectionistic tendencies. If we can be playful and positive at the same time, that's probably an even better way to do that. So Charles says, can we run from continuous, unwanted, irritated noise? For the last 5 years, it's draining me a lot. Absolutely. So it's interesting, the language that you're using. So in the first week of the Stress Mastery course, our focus is watch your words. And it's amazing that the power that words have on the brain and even the chemical state of the brain, and the idea of running from something is very draining. Now, I make light of that. Even this morning, I was thinking about that because I have a tank top. I can't remember who it was, Nike, Adidas, something like that, but it says run away. And for a long time, when I was going through my challenges, I was running, and I was literally feeling like as I was running away from my life. And by the time I got 3, 5, 10 miles away, then I felt like I could start to run back towards it. So I found that playful, but I had to be in the right state of mind for that. I think when there's a lot of noise and chaos and stress and irritation, we can feel like we want to run away. I think also in today's world, we tend to want to hack the system. So what are stress hacks? And my opinion on this is that we need to stop hacking and start healing. We want to start, trying to find out how do we not feel like we have to run, and how do we take time and energy to really nourish ourselves. That's really what you need more than anything. So I would say with that, if you find yourself feeling like you want to run, to think about how do you calm and quiet that primal part of the brain that is so aggravated and irritated by the world around you. And there is a lot of noise, and there is a lot of stress, and there is a lot of chaos. And in fact, next week's webinar, My intention with that is to talk more deeply about this. It was not my plan. I have no idea where I'm going with these webinars. So if people have specific topics they want me to talk about in these short 20-minute sessions, I'm going to invite you to post that in the comment section below on YouTube so that I can see those, and I will start answering those questions on these live programs. Next week, we're talking about stress sensitivity and something called vasovagal syndrome. And within that, I'm also going to define what stress actually is and the difference between words like stress, worry, anxiety, panic, and depression. A lot of times those get lumped together and they're very different physiological and psychological states. And it's important that we watch our words to make sure we're labeling things in a way that give us a sense of personal control that we can take action. We might not be able to fix the problem. We might not be able to change the people that we're around, but we can change our physiological state so that we are more tolerant and we can actually use some of those experiences as fuel for positive change. So with that, wanting to end as closely as I can to being on time, I want to thank you all for being here with me. And I want to invite you to next week's webinar. If you want to join us, please make sure to sign up. I'll post a link below to sign up for next week's webinar. I know we have, last I checked, up almost 1,000 people signed up. So I am so delighted that it's a hot topic. And if you have other topics you want me to cover, post those in the comment section below as well, and I will get to them as quickly as I can. So thank you all. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bless your stress, by the way. It means that you are alive, and I'll see you again next time.